Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to today's session. We're going to take you through a little bit of an overview of BCN and where we can kind of help and focus with some of the auction customers and the industry a bit more broadly. Just before we do go into things, we've got quite a bit that we want to go through in today's session. We've got about an hour penciled in for it. We do want to try and get you guys' thoughts and comments in as much as possible. So if there is anything that you want to share or ask questions about, we've got the chat box, drop them into there. We are monitoring it, and what we'll do is we'll look to pick that up towards the end of the session, and then if we can't get through all of the questions in today, we'll follow up afterwards with all the answers and everything like that. Perfect. Mark, do you want to just move on to the next screen? So today's presenters are myself, George. I'm a Senior Account Manager here at BCN. I'm also joined by Mark Rotherham, our CTO, and Aaron Dearman, who's our Auction Product Specialist. And collectively today, what we're going to do is kind of wanted to lift a little bit on BCN. And we're a little bit unique compared to other MSPs and IT partners in that our breadth and depth of capability is really quite huge. And what that allows us to do is really partner with customers on their kind of digital transformation journey and help digitalize, automate, and adopt new technologies. And so you guys are sure quite familiar and aware that we've been a long-standing and loyal partner of Microsoft. And really what we want to be able to do is take those enterprise technologies and with their scalability, security, and capability and bring it to the auction industry and our auction customers to make them better, more efficient, more competitive, and really be a true auction houses of choice. And today's session is really to kind of start to illustrate that and give you a bit of food for thought as we start to move forward. So on that note, what I want to do is pass over to Mark and we can kind of get things off in a bit more detail. Mark, over to you.
Thanks, George, and good afternoon, everyone. So hi, I'm Mark Rotherham, BCN's Chief Technology Officer, and I'm going to just take you through a little bit of where BCN are at, what we can do, and then we'll feed that into how we make that relevant for the auction space. So this slide basically tells kind of two pictures. On the left-hand side, it's a little bit around our kind of Microsoft badges, for want of a better word. We're one of a few UK partners with Microsoft that have got all 6 designations that are available. And what that really does is just set out our store with regards to the capability stack we've got with Microsoft. We've also got a bunch of specializations, which mean that we've got quite niche capabilities that have been recognized by Microsoft in certain areas. They include virtual desktop, cloud security, but also, very relevant for this conversation, small and mid-sized business management, which is all around Business Central and Power Apps. On the right-hand side of this slide, I'm just kind of quickly showing BCN's entire capability. So I split it into kind of 3 segments: configure, customize, and create. And this is really just to set the scene of, we've got all of the components and capabilities and managed services needed to provide a comprehensive set of IT services for all of our customers. What we typically see is customers start at the top of this kind of wheel with things like modern workplace, hybrid cloud, Azure, and security. And that's kind of the benchmark for an MSP from a services capability to provide. And what that means is we can manage your endpoints, manage your firewalls, manage your internet and your locations, manage those all securely and in a way that enables productivity through the Microsoft ecosystem to come through. The customized stack is where we start to differentiate ourselves a little bit from other MSPs. And here we've got capabilities that build out on that Microsoft ecosystem. So that's things like expanding SharePoint into fully customized web portals that really allow you to use your structured data or your unstructured data, all your files and things like that much better. It's the Power Apps ecosystem, which is all around business process automation. I'm going to be talking a bit about that later. Data analytics, everything that it should be data-led and data-informed these days, and it's all about how we can do that regardless of the scale you're at. And then dynamics, this is central to what we do with auction as the kind of hub of business process and data that we can expand from. And the last bit on here is create, and this is where we can go beyond those discrete kind of tools and capabilities that Microsoft gives us and build out custom applications from scratch. That can be web apps, mobile apps, that are there for unique purposes that are really there to drive business value. Around the outside of the wheel, we've kind of got themes that I'm going to touch on in a moment. The principles really are everything's secure by design. We look at how we optimize into the cloud, whether that's with infrastructure or licensing. Everything should be data-led, and right at the top, we look at how we can fuel AI with data to really get going with this kind of next generation of tech. And last bit on this slide is just bottom right hand corner around the academy. The reason we can get all of the accreditations to the left is the investment in people, and it's our methodology of bringing people in from local schools, universities, and putting them on a kind of journey within BCN that gets them to the right expertise level. So it's our investment in people, no matter where they are across BCN, to level them up, get them the right skills, and improve value through the ecosystems that we operate within. So that's just a little bit of a high-level view. I think the only other thing to mention here is we do things at both ends of the scale spectrum here. So in some cases, we might look at a small amount of a small size customer, 10 to 30 to 40 end users, all the way up to thousands. And that kind of goes for all the services in here, whether that's managing devices, it's managing data warehouses, and it's the fact that we've got that scale at the large end that helps us bring some of the technology to bear at the smaller end as well. So other MSPs haven't got the big enterprise grade kind of data warehousing customers or full stack development customers that allow them to offer these kind of same capabilities across the entire customer base. So I'm just going to move on a little bit into what are the absolute number one, three key themes that we talk about that are relevant to pretty much every one of our customers across BCN, regardless of size and scale. And this one in here is security, and we're going to touch a little bit about security at the end. Just checking people can see okay. Yeah, okay. So security, the whole tagline here is that we can break through a security baseline. I'm going to explain what that means towards the end of the presentation. But the whole goal with this is making sure that your security investment is right-sized to your business and you're balancing your risk from a security perspective off with your budget. Data's all around getting data ready so that you can drive data into insights, being data-led. And again, we're going to talk a little bit about how we can help with some of the visualization aspects of data as well. And AI, the biggest buzzword for the last 18 months. And the real tagline here is how do we make it a practically useful experience and deployment of AI rather than some of the buzzwords. I'm going to move on to now how we're going to kind of frame some of the tech related to auctions now. So we've picked out these kind of 4 key areas that we're going to go through today. First one is going to be around process automation. Then we're going to get into data decisions and generating content. And finally, we're going to talk about environment security. Now, to kind of tee up the process side of things, I'm going to just flip over into a little slide about how we approach something called Power Apps. Now, Power Apps is an ecosystem that's built on the entire Microsoft framework, and its sole purpose in life is to do internal business process automation. So the goal with Power Apps is to give us a low-code platform that we can build out capability that will effectively help enhance an already existing process. So the idea is we've got a process that's okay today, but it's manual. We've looked to automate that, to digitize it, and then to start to augment it with AI through the Power Apps ecosystem. So that's just to kind of tee up the kind of tool and the concept. I'm going to do a little demo of what that looks like after we've gone through a couple of use cases of the kind of processes relevant to auction. that we think could be appropriate for this kind of technology. So I'm going to just go forward into the first one and hand over to Aaron to start talking us through this.
Hi everybody. So I'm Aaron Dearman. I'm the product vertical lead, primarily working on auction. I just want to go through some of the points here. So this is primarily around the valuations and cataloging process in auction. So if we have a look at our inquiries coming in, we usually have a number of ways that they can come in these days, whether it's emails, online, people still coming in. I've seen WhatsApp being used as an example in the past, and it's really how do we take all those and take some of those processes and streamline them using automation and AI. So if we start off on here, we can see about the inquiry coming in. If we have a look, you have to then allocate it to a specialist. Typically that would be going through to another department, etc. How can we automate this through skill-based routing? What's actually come in? If we know what's come in, or as much detail as we can to get that over to the right place straight away, whether that's coming in from online as an example, the images coming in, we could detect what that item is, therefore go to the relevant department, etc. We can then bring that through to the item valuation stage, where there's a number of things that we could do and technologies we could utilize to make it a bit more seamless. So for example, utilizing Power Apps, we're just talking about here, we could be off-site with a poor internet connection, doing a probate valuation, for example. And in this case, if you had a specialized Power App, you could do some of this work on offline and it's synced back. The perk to that is you haven't been writing all that out, etc., and then have to retype that back into the system. But once you're back with an internet connection, it goes straight in, making that more efficient. The other part here is where we're looking at AI. Have we actually seen this before? Depending on the actual goods you're selling and the categories of which, you might have actually seen that item before. So in this case, do you really want to catalog all that again? If you already have a good valuation catalog, you've already got your estimates, etc., then, for instance, using the picture to find similar items to then go back and find, well, we've catalogued a similar thing 9 months ago. Do we want to use that, pull the data over from that? So there's a number of ways we can use AI as well with historic data. So such as going on to the cataloging and condition process. It's the same kind of thing here. Going back to the idea of if you were off-site, if they were written on notes, as another example, maybe using OCR, so optical character recognition, to take a picture of those notes, feed it straight back into the system. Same sort of concept as well with if you were doing recordings and you had voice to text technologies coming straight in rather than having to hand type them up or recording them and somebody typing that up afterwards. There's a number of ways during the cataloging process and condition reports where you can utilize technology to make that more automated. Then we look at which sale allocation to actually put it in. At this point, you might have a sale coming up. Thinking about reports and reporting and other things like that, other technologies such as Power BI, to be able to see what valuations you actually do have and which auctions they could go in, and effectively using that data and being able to see that data in a good format to make those decisions quickly. And finally, with the actual valuation report now going back to the vendor, we could utilize a number of things, some of which we already do, such as third-party tools like DocuSign if they're offsite, as well as electronic signature pads internally, as well as just trying to automate that process and make it the least painful. Thanks. Sorry, Mark, could you switch slide?
Just before we go to the next slide, I think the key principle we're trying to get across here is that this is an example of a bunch of steps in a process. And what we do literally daily for our customers is take steps like these and think about how we can digitize them in the best possible way. And that digitization can be a little application that makes it easy to enter data. It can just be joining multiple systems together and passing data between them so you don't have to do any repetition. Or it can be used in some of the advanced AI capabilities that Aaron's just talked about, where OCR and speech to text have been around for a while, but really the reason why it's relevant now is because they're accessible in a way that they are much better than they used to be. The AI revolution that's happened in the last 18 months or so has really made two things happen. One, the AI is available at a much more powerful, much more accurate, but equally they're much more accessible. The previous few years before this generative AI kind of ecosystem exploded, meant that AIs that we're talking about here would be limited to enterprise. We're now at the point where we're getting pretty much any size and scale of customer being able to augment a simple workflow or process with something like OCR on steroids, where not only will it read a document, but it'll understand it. It'll understand customer name, invoice numbers, all those kind of things. You can train it to be really clever. And the same with the speech to text technology. Taking speech and forming it into text is much easier, but also getting insights from that and summarizations and thoughts. Those are all new things that are opening doors now that just weren't available before. So yeah, I think it's the takeaway is think about processes that you've got and how we would reimagine them with a digital theme against them to make them more efficient, improve quality, and improve speed, or do things that you couldn't do previously. Sorry, I'll go to the next slide now. There you
go. So this is another example of which could be useful here around targeted marketing and potentially using AI in that context. So for instance, in this example, if you've published your sale, you want to try and get that to the right people, to the right potential buyers. So in the example, I don't know if you have, for instance, a Rolex coming up and you did have the underbidder information from the previous sale, that person didn't win, but they're in the market for a Rolex, looking at your historic data there, so you know where to target your marketing. And at that point as well, the potential to produce a personalized catalog along with tailored personalized marketing. So those are things there where this process could be improved using AI and technology.
Yeah, I think that one's really interesting. So we've now got live applications where we're taking data and we are automatically generating customized reports at any level. It could be at an individual level, it could be an organization. The power to do these things, again, didn't really exist 12 months ago in a way that we could tap into and use. So it's really interesting to see that, again, the word accessibility. Yeah, we can do the digital movement of data and process flow, but being able to augment it with AI at this level is really cool and interesting. So I think I'm going to take over just quickly, and I'm just going to go through an example use case that we built out for a customer and show you what it looks like, so you can kind of see what a Power App looks like and the kind of things that we can do. So to do that, I'm using a really simple kind of process. So today, the process is a manual process where we get emails into a shared inbox. Those emails have invoices or sales orders or something consistent like that. And the company we did this for had a couple of people that looked at that mailbox, they opened those PDFs and they processed them manually into their system of record. So the whole idea was, right, we've got a process that works. What can we do to add some intelligence and some automation around it? So, they came to us with the question about what can we do with this? So we took the starting point of emails hitting the mailbox, and then we built something called a little bit of integration. It was Power Automate Flow, and we started straight away by going straight into one of these new AI capabilities called Document Intelligence. And what this effectively does is it tries to understand that file. So email hits the inbox, the file's there, and automatically that file gets routed into an AI engine that's going to go and try and understand it. Now, the understanding comes back with a score. So it says if it's really confident that it's understood it, it's going to say, right, it's above 90% confident, which is the benchmark we set for this particular example. It goes and writes that data straight to the data set. So already we've kind of, where we've got good confidence in the AI, we've removed a manual process. But the key thing here is what happens if we're not confident, if it's something we've not seen before. 2 bits below, we've built a little Power App, and this is what I'm going to show you in a moment. And this Power App is literally there to help someone look at the file, edit the bits that maybe have got wrong, and then send that across up into the system. Now, so it could be that actually the confidence was low, but it got it right, so it just validate. But if it's been corrected, it'll go up there as well. But the cool thing is, because we built this in such a way, we can then go and upgrade the training data. So the next time we see that kind of file, we can do it automatically. So it's just an example, but I want to show you what the Power App looks like so you can kind of visualize what we're talking about. So bear with me a moment, I'm just going to share my screen and go to the demo. While Teams catches up. There we go. So this is our little Power App. It's in a website at the moment, but you can have it hosted in Teams or on your mobile phone or on a tablet. We log in for this. We've got auto login because it knows who I am using Microsoft. And effectively, what you see in here is for every email that's come in with a PDF, these are the lines correlating to it. And if I click on one of these, it's going to take me into what the Power App and the AI has understood. So on the left-hand side, you can see we've got a really high confidence level. It's pulled out the customer name, the invoice number, the date, address, VAT, total numbers, quantities, product codes. And if I look in the middle, this is the actual PDF that's been processed. So I can zoom in, I can zoom out, I can pop out and have a look around as well if I want to make it a bit easier to navigate. But the idea is I could come in and just check this, and if I'm happy with it, great, I can click confirm it's correct. If I'm not comfortable with that, I can click no, edit details. Maybe it's a product code was missing here, could add that in, and away we go. Update the invoice, and that's it. That's the bit of manual effort done. So the whole idea with this demo is just showing that we can go from a manual process to one that's not even fully automated, but still has quite a lot of value, just by adding that little bit of AI and workflow automation into the middle. So I'm just going to stop sharing, and I think George, are you going to take over for the next
Yep,
segment?
I'll start sharing my screen. Perfect. Hopefully everybody see that. If not, Mark, you just shout out. So, following on from the theme of the data, I think particularly in business, the old adage that your cash was king still is true, but I think data is probably getting ahead now. If we can get use of data, get access to data and utilize that data, it brings so much more value. And I think with reporting, more often than not, rather than being kind of a value add, it's more of a pain and frustration. Too many processes are manual and Excel based, creates errors, multiple versions when managing, all that good jazz. Well, with Power BI, what's really good about it is in many instances with M365 license packages, there's some licenses available for you guys. If you don't have that, they're not already available, then with Power BI, you can just very easily add on bundles and licenses that start extending that and connect directly into both M365, Business Central and Evo Auction, but also other systems as well. So we start being able to pull multiple sources of data together and start extracting more value from that day-to-day business data that you collect and start utilizing it to drive business performance, initiative, and a bit more proactiveness. The other great thing about Power BI as well, not only can it be consumed internally, but it can also start being consumed and published externally as well. So it really kind of opens up the art of the possible and the capability of the data information that you can share with maybe your customers or partners, but also internal staff as well. And just kind of illustrate that a little bit. As I mentioned before, so many conversations that I have with customers is all our reporting is around Excel. It's time consuming, it's manual, there's errors, we miss data, we clash heads because one person's working from one version, I'm working from another version. With Power BI, we can centralize all that data, pull it, extract it in real time, and we enable customers to start being a lot more proactive in pulling data together and start asking more interesting questions. We can start looking at values of consignments, we can start looking at lead times. Lead time from evaluation through to consignment through to sale. We can look at stock churn. What's our length of time we hold stock for both sold items, unsold items? What's the impact of that? Is there lost sales opportunities from not being able to have capacity? We can start looking at modeling different scenarios. We can start asking what if questions. Well, what if we increase our buyer premiums fee by 1%? What's the impact on our competitiveness, our customer, our business? And so we start extracting all this kind of information. We can start slicing, dicing, modeling this information, which really starts driving much more information and much more kind of that front foot mentality in terms of how we can drive that business forward. And kind of identify and just kind of demonstrate that a little bit. I've got a Power BI demo here. It's a very standard kind of financial reporting report, but you can see here we're going from that Excel-based reports where we can still have that kind of tabular type presentation of data down the left hand side here, and we can see my accounts across different periods, in this instance years, and we've got assets, we've got liabilities, and all the way down to our revenue accounts at the bottom. But just moving over into the middle graph here, I'm presenting the data a little bit differently. I can start tracking that performance over period, over time, and see how each year performance trends. I can also start looking at growth over those years. I can see I started a little bit slow, but I'm pretty consistent over the last couple of years. That's great. Questions are, how do I maintain that? Questions are, how do I start driving that growth much faster? And so I can start thinking and looking at this and consuming that data really easy with Power BI, along with creating things like the top 10 customers, top 10 items, lots, categories, and so forth. But simply by having this information here, I can apply filters across the top with my different categories, look at comparing between regions. I can start looking at segmentations and start really drilling down and extracting more and more value behind those top level figures. But in this financial report here, I can see I've got it split across my income statement, balance sheet, and a bit more detailed sort of transactional data below. But again, when I look at my income statement, immediately in real time, I can see my published key KPIs here. And so I can start identifying if there's some risks, if there's a red or an amber situation that I need to look at. I can really easily visualize this, get this information both from my Business Central system, but also my other systems within the business, and start taking proactive actions here and start looking at different trends and identify ways that I can be more efficient, more effective, and also be more profitable in the long term. And so very quickly, very easy, we can just see how we're kind of putting different data sources together, presenting that in a slightly different way from your traditional kind of Excel reports, and immediately we can access a huge amount of value and kind of questions and just kind of intelligence that we can use to take the business forward. So that's kind of data analytics, it's data reports. Mark, if I can kind of pass back to you in terms of take on to the next step.
Yeah. So I think just to finish on this, I think that again the main takeaway I would give is going to Power BI is a massive leap from static data reporting into interactive data reporting. Yeah, it is a huge step. So for anyone that's not done it, the value is the immediate value is quite good, and then it's all around how you make the most out of the ecosystem to get into data-led decisions, and that data-led decisions is really where we want to get everyone to help drive the business decisions and everything off the back of that forward as well. So I'm going to take over and present. Give me a moment to get to the right slide, and we'll just finish off going through some security. So give me a moment. So I thought it'd be good to just kind of give almost a generic perspective on security and where we are today. So this is relevant to every single one of our customers, and to be honest, every single business across the UK. And kind of start off with just a little bit of a view from where Microsoft, who've done an independent report, think we as a UK country sit today. And you know, the main thing that jumped out is that only 13% of UK organisations, out of all the ones audited, have got a resilient security posture. And what that means is there's an awful lot of vulnerable businesses out there, and a lot that are at high risk. Now, if you click on the slide at the moment, it'll actually take to that report and you can have a look through. But this is just one example of a perspective on security across where we are in the UK. Now, over the last few years, a lot of change has happened in cyber threats, and one of the most, I say, interesting but worrisome is that we now actually have better concepts of what's going on in the cyber world. So effectively, if you imagine there's a big chain of people that are kind of in this cyber threats landscape, the first set of people are responsible for the kind of this little black box I've put on the screen, and their job is to effectively go out and find vulnerabilities in businesses. So they don't do any hacking, they don't do any cyber crime per se, but what they do is they go and find out who's not got up-to-date patching, who's got out-of-date infrastructure, who's got open Wi-Fi's or CCTV systems that might not have been locked down properly. And then they compile this into a little package. And what I'm showing here is how much they sell those packages for on the dark web. And you can see that company revenue in millions at the bottom ranges from 1 to 100. And the lot size on the left ranges from anything from $2,000 all the way up the scale. Now, effectively, what's happening is, as a new vulnerability comes to light, whether it's one that's been found before or not, the bad actors go and look for people that are vulnerable, and they bid for your data. Effectively, they bid for those vulnerabilities, they bid to get access to them. And then it follows down this chain, eventually getting to someone that writes some software, deploys some software, or does a phishing attack targeted at the data that they just bought. And I just show this as a bit of an insight into how this ecosystem works. It's really interesting. It's at scale. It's industrialized almost now. And that this has been going on for a while. What's happened more recently is we're getting AI generated attacks compounding this. So previously, it would all be human-based vectors. A human would write a phishing email and they try and construct a good narrative, and they try and make you click a link that was nasty. Now what we're getting is they're using generative AI to churn these things out at mass, at scale, in a much higher frequency. So it's kind of accelerating the problem. So this is kind of the landscape that we're in at the moment. It's accelerating in multiple ways, but generative AI, whilst I've just shown you a good use case of it being positive, there's bad ones out there as well. So what we try and do is articulate and get all of our customers to a good security baseline. And it is a balance of risk appetite versus investment. And I'm very aware that risk and budgets for security are different in every organization. So what we try and do is just lay out a kind of approach that we want to take people on, so that they can get confidence in where they are. Basically, we want you guys to know where you're at from a security perspective. So our approach is to have layers, and the idea is you invest in the bottom layer and it's a foundation, then you can invest in the next layer, and then that builds on top of it. So you're not throwing anything away, you're continually improving the layers of security. And effectively, I'm going to kind of go into what some of the details are in a moment, but what we want you to do is get to a good security baseline where you're putting off attackers to go to easier targets. Yeah, that's really our goal. Is we want you guys to have enough of a robust security strategy that people look at you and go, actually, there's easier picking somewhere else. I'm not going to go there. You could spend all your money on security and still not be 100% secure. So it's finding that balance is effectively the message here. And if you don't know where you are today, then you should go and have a look at your systems and figure out where your balance is and how you're happy with it. If you are, then brilliant. If you're not, then there's a bunch of services that we can talk about, I think that you should consider. Now, if I go forward one slide, I'm just going to build up this is a hierarchy of what we should be talking about fixing first. Yeah, so if you start with number one, unpatched and legacy systems, these are the things that if you have in your environment, literally like a red flag to a bull, they're the thing that attackers target first, and it's the thing that we advise to get rid of first as well. Any security audit or certification fails if you've not got patched systems and if you've got things that are out of support. So that's our number one thing to make sure that we've considered in a security strategy. Number two is unsecure systems. So great, you're patching everything and you've got things that are up to date, but if you're leaving the door open on them, then again, that's a problem. So it's all around having multi-factor authentication, so that if someone does know your password, they can't get in because you've got your mobile phone or a security key. It's having the right conditional access, so you're not letting people log in from different countries that you're not expecting them from, or from different locations. And it's having, concepts like least privileged access, so you only have access to the systems you need to. So that's number two. Number three is human error. The number one threat after those things have been closed as the door is the human vector. Someone sending a phishing attack that you click on. Yeah, so there's things that we can do there to help stop it, like security training, and looking at individuals and the organizational constructs of how you approach a security incident. Simple things like we have great examples where some of our customers stuck up a QR code in the kitchen just to see who would scan it. And there's a very common vulnerability now where if you scan a QR code, that can be the phishing link that you clicked effectively. So if you ever seen QR codes stuck on car park meters that look a bit dodgy, that's what people are trying to do. They're trying to take you to a fake website to pay for your parking, and then they'll just take money out of your account. So there's things like that where we've got to try and expose people to these kind of problems and train them so that they know that they're there. And then the last one, zero-day attacks. And this is really hard to fend off. The only way you can really fend it off is by investing very heavily in logging, analytics, AI, to actually look at what's going on in your infrastructure and your ecosystems. Now, the idea with showing this isn't to say you've got to invest in all these things. They're just things to think about. But what I would say is that number one and two are kind of mandatory. They must-haves now from a security perspective. If we're not ticking those boxes, then it's likely to be when, not if, from an attack perspective. Now, the hackers, what they want to do is effectively steal data, encrypt files, delete data, and cause damage. What that does generally is cause reputation damage, loss of earnings, data's exposed, or IP leakage. And we've seen our own customers who haven't invested the right amount in security have these kind of attacks on them. It's a painful experience to go through on all sides, which is why we really encourage our customers to get to the right level. But what we've also seen, in some cases, is business shut down. So companies similar to BCN, an IT services company, that they were vulnerable not so long ago. They got hacked and they effectively shut down. So these things are happening, and it's just to be aware of the scenarios that are going on out there. Now, what it looks like from a tech stack perspective, I'm not going to go through all of this, but effectively there's layering. Start on the left and move to the right. Patch management, lifecycle management, security audits are things that, again, we recommend to every one of our customers to make sure they've got that due diligence. Things are up to date, you've got legacy out of the door, and you're starting to get confidence because you are checking, you're checking your security. And then as we go right, it's all around layering. It's choosing the right things at the right time to reduce your risk and to make sure you're comfortable in your balance between security, investment, and risk appetite. There's a lot on there. So I think really the takeaway for me is have a think about, do you have a good understanding of your risk from a security perspective and the investments you've made? If not, have a chat with us around where you are today and what you should be doing to kind of elevate that security position. The last thing we want is any of your customer data or sensitive information being leaked out there and causing that reputational damage or things worse than that as we go forward. And I have put on there where the baseline is, and this is fairly high up for some customers. Some customers have kind of gone beyond it, but that's kind of where we recommend it. It's do all the reactive, select the proactive ones that are appropriate for you, and start looking way through some of the managed ones as well. The embedded ones, again, some of those are really relevant, but again, it's looking at your environment, your risk appetite and your security budget at the end of the day. So that's the last bit on security, and I think now, if there are any questions, flip into that.
Yes, so guys, we'd love to open up. If you've got any questions, thoughts, comments, or anything like that, pop into the chat. We're happy to pick them up. A couple that I have had when in speaking to customers already, Mark, and maybe you can help with this, is trying to figure out where to start and how to start. And I just don't know if you can kind of shed a little bit of light on that, given that some of our customers start from different positions, that now BC, legacy systems, newer systems. Can you shine any light on that?
I think if we look at it from a business process and an AI perspective, if you've got processes that operate today in your business that you think possibly could have a level of automation, that those are the real places to start. For me, it's all looking at the first quick win that really gets you comfortable with business process automation that you can show an ROI against. Now, we've got lots of different ways of engaging on all these things, and specifically around AI, we've formed Kickstarters, which are anything from 5 to 8 days that are designed just to really go and break the back of one of those business processes, whether it's a Power App or a Flow or a chatbot or something like that, to just really help get that quick win under the belt with a kind of pre-framed almost project outline. But those are really good to get the ideas going. Really, it's down to finding those good processes that have got repetition in them, that we can start to think about removing some of the manual effort that is repetitive. That if you are doing it quite often, it's easy to get wrong and maybe quality will drop off. It's things like that where a good business process workflow, Power App or automation, can really help. So it's looking for those sweet spots. Once you've got a quick win, it's then looking at how you expand beyond that as relevant across the ecosystem. The really nice thing with working with Dynamics and the Microsoft ecosystem is that they are all really well integrated with each other. So Power Apps is a kind of a natural extension for Business Central, where we want to do something slightly different. It just also happens to be the natural place for all of Microsoft's business process automation. So it dovetails really nicely together. So yeah, I've been looking there from look at a good process that's got some element of repetition in it, and then map that into either one of our Kickstarters or have a chat with one of our power consultants around how we would put something together.
Cool. And I guess that just the other question is, I'm conscious with a lot of our customers, some start from Nav and some start from Business Central. Is there a case that you need to wait to move to Business Central before starting to think about these other technologies, or can those who are on Nav think about other automations?
I think obviously it's better to be in Business Central, it's better to be in cloud, but all of these things we talked about, especially from Power Apps and Power BI and integrations, operate on integration frameworks. So once you've done the plumbing into one system, if you do change that system, it's just a case of redoing that plumbing. So it's not necessarily you have to wait. Timing might come into it. If you're about to move from one to the other, you might want to wait. But yeah, they'll integrate backwards and forwards, and quite often, as long as the data is the same, they don't mind.